Welcome back. In a while from now, Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will be addressing the United Nations General Assembly. Now, he's scheduled to speak for about 15 minutes, but he's likely to speak longer. He's been in the line of fire. Why? Because everywhere Nawaz Sharif tried to rake up the Kashmir issue. Whether it was his meeting with US Secretary of State John Kerry, or whether it was meeting the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, he kept raising the Kashmir issue, and each time in every meeting he was told, please check terror emanating from Pakistan. Pakistan cannot remain the global epicenter of terror. 7 major humiliations that Nawaz Sharif has faced in New York, in the United States of America. Let's take you through that. I'll get you much more on that story. Joining me on the broadcast is Lieutenant General Raj Qadian. He's former Deputy Chief of the Army Staff, someone who will tell us what India's strategy is, what India's strategy should be. Also with us is BJP's GVL Narasimha Rao. Is the government doing enough, or does the government need to do much more? In a while from now, we will be joined by the most authoritative voice on Pakistan, Ambassador G. Parthasarathy. But first, 7 major humiliations that Nawaz Sharif underwent in US.
Shaken, nervous, jittery, and overwhelmed by insecurity. That's Pakistan right now. Faced with a grieving but grim and determined India after the Uri terror attack, Pakistan has now painted a big guilty sign across its face. Top sources tell India today that Pakistan's Army Chief General Raheel Sharif dialed Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif today to inform him that there was a massive buzz over an imminent strike from India. Sources say Nawaz Sharif told his army chief to respond in full measure. While Nawaz Sharif tries desperately to scrape Pakistan's rock-bottom reputation off the floor in New York City, his country has made its nervousness plainly clear. For instance, Pakistan has cancelled all civil flights from Islamabad to the northern areas. The Pakistan Air Force has been placed on operational standby to retaliate very quickly. Finally, Pakistan has closed off several motorways which it could use as airfields in the event of a conflict with India. Pakistan's nervousness is not really surprising. A series of humiliations have destroyed its confidence and revealed its desperation.
Secretary John Kerry of the United States has told Nawaz Sharif today, stop harboring terror. That's humiliation number 1. Humiliation number 2, the Kashmir issue has been blocked from the United Nations General Assembly. Ban Ki-moon has told Pakistan pretty much to take a hike. Humiliation number 3, China has hinted, if you can believe it, that terror threatens the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, which is very important to both countries. So that's a slap in the face for Pakistan. Humiliation number 4, India and Afghanistan may actually boycott the SAARC summit in Pakistan scheduled for November. Huge international embarrassment. Humiliation number 5, Baloch leader Brahmdag Bugti wants asylum in India as first reported by India today. Another slap in the face of Nawaz Sharif. Humiliation number 6, Pakistan's own Chief Justice has said some Pakistani political parties support terror groups for vested interests. What could be worse than that for a country like Pakistan? And finally, humiliation number 7, the Manhattan bomber has a direct link to Pakistan. He visited Pakistan twice, and each time he spent a year there. What could be worse for Pakistan's reputation?
India is in no hurry to jump the gun. For now, Pakistan definitely is. With Kaswar Cluster in Islamabad, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what could be worse for Pakistan? There's much more in store for Pakistan, and not just when Sushma Swaraj, India's External Affairs Minister, starts speaking on the 26th. Pakistan, even before Nawaz Sharif has started speaking, Pakistan is in the line of fire. Why? We've got breaking news coming in. Afghanistan's Vice President has hit out at Pakistan. He said the world knows where Taliban leaders live. He's asked Pakistan to hit terrorists on their soil. But that's not happening. Afghanistan's Vice President Sarwar Danish at the United Nations General Assembly has said that attacks on protesters at the American University in Kabul were plotted on Pakistani soil. This is proof of Pakistan's involvement in spreading terror in Afghanistan. And there's much more on this that's coming. India will give proof of what's happening in India. Afghanistan is telling the entire world at the United Nations. And I want to bring in Ambassador G. Parthasarathi for more on this. Ambassador, you've served in Pakistan. You've been India's High Commissioner to Islamabad. This is hell for Pakistan at the UNGA already.
No, I think Pakistan has badly miscalculated. What has happened really, and we shouldn't bring politics into this, this is a evolving process, is that all the economic aid and support we have given to Afghanistan has, if you go to Kabul market today, the Pakistanis say, "Hum Hindustani hain." They know they are hated that much. So I think we are building on that. And what is very important is, Gaurav, that this has been in the works for some time now. Pakistan had been subverting SARC and was planning to use the SARC summit to get Kashmir demonstrations, various other things. What we have done is, we are not spoiling regional cooperation, but we have now set up an eastern corridor of India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. And now we have added Myanmar and Thailand.
Correct.
And in Goa, we are not bringing SARC to meet them. We are bringing BIMSTEC. Everyone from Aung San Suu Kyi to the Nepalese Prime Minister to India, Pakistan is excluded. Likewise, building Chabahar port, which we have been talking about for 10 or 15 years. Now, Chabahar port leads to, on the west, an India-Afghanistan-Iran access. You know, the Iranians are furious with Pakistan after Rahil Sharif insulted their president. So I think, all this talk I'm hearing about war, immediate action and so on, it's all very nice. Those are matters which should be left to the army to decide. Hopefully without the NSG getting involved as they did in Pathankot. The military knows. And just remember one thing. In the past also, the military takes its revenge at its own time.
Oh, absolutely.
And nobody should interfere with that. They know where to hit, when to hit. And rushing it now
would well be unfortunate.
No, it's stupid because the Pakistanis are waiting for them.
Oh, absolutely. Those Pakistanis are flapping, and I'll tell you on the broadcast, before Nawaz Sharif starts speaking, why Pakistanis are flapping. And General Qadian, this is something that you need to tell us. The Prime Minister, according to our sources, has told the army what's happened in Uri is for the army to settle. What's happening at the LC is for the Army Commander, Northern Command, and his team to settle. So how is it that the army settles these issues? And what about all these people who are saber-rattling and saying this could lead to a conflict?
No, that is a very hollow threat from Pakistan. I have been recommending last 3 days in the nearly 90 hours that Uri incident took place, that today we have the ability of punishing Pakistan without crossing the line. There are ammunitions available that you don't have to cross the line to hit Pakistan. Secondly, who should we hit? There is a lot of talk that we should hit the terror camps. Unfortunately, if we believe that after 90 hours the terrorists will be still sitting in those makeshift camps, then I think we are making a mistake. They would have moved out long ago. Moment you hit any of the buildings, assuming it is the Pakistani terror camp, Pakistan will put a board of a school or a hospital or worse, even of a mosque, and tell the world that this is what India is doing. They are bombing our mosques. And you know the implication that can take place. Therefore, second part, who has attacked Uri? Not the terrorists. They were merely the actors. It is the Pakistani army. Their signature is absolutely unmistakable on
Then
the
how
kind
do you
of
avenge
grenades,
it? How do you
incendiary
avenge
grenades
it?
they carried. No, therefore, our punishment today should be on Pakistani army, not necessarily we should be trying to hit the elusive terrorists.
But those
We
are
may never
words.
get them.
You
They
know,
would have moved out
you
in
were
any case.
posted in
Why would
Northern
they be
Command.
there?
You were Deputy Chief of the Army. Don't tell us anything that you shouldn't be telling us. But what are war games? How will you punish the Pakistan Army? And if you punish the Pakistan Army along the LC, let's say you open up the artillery, you know, since the ambassador is also a gunner officer in his earlier avatar, if you open the artillery along the 770-kilometer long line of control, will it lead to escalation? Can it lead to war? Or will Pakistan, like earlier, get the message and keep quiet?
The question is for me.
Yes, General.
Artillery exchange is not a new thing. We had started engaging artillery fire in 2003. Pakistan has a weakness in artillery ammunition vis-a-vis India. No army is ever 100% prepared for every task. We may be having shortages, but relatively we are much better off. It is for that reason that Pakistan requested for a ceasefire in 2003. That has lasted many years. Therefore, artillery firing is not an escalation. If you can fire small arms, you can fire a mortar. Why not the artillery? And artillery can punish Pakistani headquarters. They can punish the Pakistani post through which the infiltrators are still coming through. I think that should be a preferred option.
Okay,
Everything else, whether we use Air Force, Navy can be used, Navy is this. Artillery exchanges, I have been saying since the last 3 days, that we should engage Pakistani front lines in an artillery exchange.
Okay.
Flatten
Now,
out some of their
GVL
force.
Narasimha
We have
Rao,
the ability,
let's
we have
take
the
it one
weapons.
by one, General. GVL Narasimha Rao, the Prime Minister, when he was in the opposition, he would hit out at Manmohan Singh when dossiers were given to Pakistan. He would say, ye love letter kya diye ja rahe hain? Today, India is offering to give more evidence to Pakistan. Isn't he doing exactly what Manmohan Singh did?
Certainly no, Gaurav, because you see what you are seeing today, the kind of diplomatic outreach and diplomatic successes we have achieved over the past 2 years. I think today the entire world, possibly with no exceptions or minor exceptions, 1 or 2 exceptions, is literally calling Pakistan a harbor of terrorists. It's calling Pakistan epicenter of terrorism. And every country is asking Pakistan to finish off the terror infrastructure that exists in Pakistan. This is not how the world reacted in the last 70 years. Every time such build-up happened, the whole world will urge India and Pakistan to step back and then have a dialogue.
No,
so
but
this,
sir,
we have reached a long distance.
But
And
Mr.
it's
GVL
important
Narasimha
to
Rao,
create this kind of an environment
the world
before
telling Pakistan to stop
this is
terror
important to
will not stop the next terror attack. That's my point. The world is paying lip sympathy, lip service.
No, but Gaurav,
how will it
perhaps-
keep us safe from the next Uri or the next
no,
Pathankot
certainly.
or the next Pampur or the next Udhampur or the next terror attack that's taken place whether in Jalalabad or in Herat?
Gaurav, for any kind of military action, for any kind of action, I think you have to create a global environment. You cannot act in isolation without preparing the ground for it. I think that is what has been achieved today. Without this, you cannot move forward. I think 2015, we have avenged killing of our security forces by doing surgical strikes in Myanmar. But that's a different context. But certainly here, even here for acting against the enemy, you need to create a global consensus. And this kind of a consensus could never be achieved in the last 7 decades.
Okay.
I think you have now Afghanistan asking
General,
India.
is
let's
a
have
surgical
joint
strike
action
like
against
Myanmar?
Pakistan's infrastructure.
Okay, is a surgical strike like Myanmar an option for government of India, for our special forces? So if the government says it's for the army commander to decide, can the army commander risk sending the special forces into Pakistan?
Gaurav, the armed forces
Yes,
are,
that
the
is an
army
option,
has
but
a
that-
complete free hand.
Mr. Narasimha Rao, that was for General Qadian.
That is an option. We have the ability, but sending of any troops runs the risk. Some of them may be even captured. So I am recommending a risk-free option. We have the artillery, we have the missiles. We don't need to cross the border. One more factor I will like to point out, that diplomacy certainly this time has been much more successful. Pakistan stands isolated. The whole world knows today. Nawaz Sharif is living in the past. If he's talking of Kashmir, world has moved on to terrorism. That is the reality of life. That is the success of India's diplomatic efforts. But
Okay.
those efforts should be supplementary to the military action. Today,
Yes.
the country is angry. The country wants the martyrdom of those 19 soldiers to be avenged.
Okay.
They were very happy when right on the first day the Prime Minister tweeted that the perpetrators will not go unpunished. They now want those words to be translated into action.
Exactly, and
I'm not
let
saying
me
do
get
it
Ambassador
tomorrow, day
Partha
after.
Sarthi to
Let the
comment
army
on this,
decide
sir.
when they want to do it.
Ambassador Partha Sarthi, artillery, missiles, or surgical strike by special forces. What of this is escalation? What of this is acceptable? What of if any of this can lead to an escalation that would lead to a full-fledged conflict?
Let me be very clear. There is a concept known as escalation dominance. Okay?
Okay?
Pakistan, we do something, and Pakistan wants to do something in return.
Yeah.
They will have to know that it's counterproductive, but that is a part of the psychological warfare involved. But on a more serious note, I hope, and I'm not in government now, that the synergy between I am told it is so, that the synergy between intelligence and the military is much stronger.
Okay.
I understand that is happening. The other point is, Saurabh, and I don't want to go into details because I'm talking on the basis of a member of the Naresh Chandra Defense Review Committee. I think our intelligence gathering abilities through various means has substantially improved, particularly TechIt. So I think we are better prepared than in the past. But again, when you go into a conflict situation, be sure that the world understands what you're doing, because ultimately you come to peace and you want to get the best deal out of the peace.
Yes.
Like you got in the case of Kargil.
Yes.
Nawaz to commit that he recognized the sanctity of the line of control.
Okay.
But this time, very clearly, I think this country has had enough.
Yes.
And I think some retribution, and that is for the army to decide whether it does it by artillery, whether it does it by missiles, whether it does it by cross assaults. That's the military. And I would urge the government to avoid getting involved in trying to micromanage.
Okay.
Coming to Myanmar, let me be very clear.
Okay.
You can't equate the two. When I was ambassador in Myanmar, we had an entire Indian brigade with the concurrence of the Myanmar government.
Yes.
Operating inside Myanmar. This has been a factor, and I would only urge the government that in matters regarding Myanmar, and that to slightly digress, keep the Myanmar government in confidence, because they
We'll
are
come to that.
very
We'll
good.
come
But
to that,
this-
Ambassador. You're spot on. You're spot on. I have to take a break. I have to take a break at this stage. There's another aspect I want to talk about, whether now or just in a while from now. Member of Parliament Rajiv Chandrasekhar says India should take the lead and declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror. Is this just symbolic? Does it have an impact? We'll talk about that on the other side of a short break. Stay with us. Humiliation after humiliation being heaped on Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. He got a dressing down from US Secretary of State John Kerry when he tried to rake up the Kashmir issue. John Kerry said sort out terror first. But that was just one humiliation. US President Barack Obama hasn't given in time. Second humiliation. He tried to meet Ban Ki-moon. He didn't get to meet him. Third humiliation. He met Shinzo Abe. Japanese president tried to rake up Kashmir. He got no response. Whoever he's meeting, he's trying to rake up Kashmir. He's getting absolutely no response. Everyone says tackle terror. And to make it worse for Pakistan, Afghanistan's vice president also raised Pakistan-sponsored terror, and that's happened for the first time in the history of the United Nations, experts tell us. Ambassador Parthasarathy with me on this. General Raj Qadian, BJP's GVL Narasimha Rao. Much more on this big story. On the other side of a short break, Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is to speak in a while from now. We'll get you that story and lots more. Stay with us. Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's Kashmir rant at the United Nations General Assembly. We'll talk about various aspects of what he said, but first about terrorist Burhan Wani, and that shows you how dubious is Pakistan's conversation on dealing with terrorism. Burhan Wani, the Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist who was killed in an encounter with security forces. What did Nawaz Sharif rant about him? Let's listen in.
Our predictions have now been confirmed by events. A new generation of Kashmiris has risen spontaneously against India's illegal occupation, demanding freedom from occupation. Burhan Wani, the young leader murdered by Indian forces, has emerged as a symbol of the latest Kashmiri Intifada, a popular and peaceful freedom movement led by Kashmiris, young and old, men and women, armed only with an undying faith in the legitimacy of their cause and a hunger for freedom in their hearts.
Ambassador G. Parthasarathy with me, Rajdeep Sardesai, a consulting editor with me, General Raj Qadian in BJP's GVL Narasimha Rao. But Ambassador Parthasarathy, to you first. Specific reference to a terrorist and calling him a youth leader. What do you make of it?
Look, Rajdeep, this is a repetition of what he's been always saying. More important, is that he, before he came here, he didn't speak to his defense minister or president. He got the permission of his army chief. So this is a speech of one Sharif trying to please another Sharif.
Okay, he's taking his directions from GHQ in Rawalpindi.
It's a repetition. He has been snubbed by all 5 permanent members.
Yes.
Remember one point. China has not backed them. It's been, in this statement, has been guarded,
yes,
given it is Chinese. He's drawn a blank with the Americans, who in fact are now talking of declaring them a terrorist state.
Yes. Okay.
The Germans and British have turned against him.
Yes, but
the
specifically on this terrorist
on the terrorist Burhan Wani, a simple question he should answer. The fellow was killed with an AK-47.
Yes.
Where did he get it from? AK-47s are not available in India.
Absolutely. Rajdeep, is this meant for domestic consumption, GHQ Rawalpindi, or to incite more trouble in the Kashmir Valley?
I think it's a bit of both. I think to say that this speech was purely for domestic compulsions of Nawaz Sharif would be a wrong way to interpret it. Typical of what Pakistani leaders over the years have done at the UNGA, spent large amounts of their time, rather than focusing on global issues, only talking about Kashmir and more Kashmir. And then you bring in the Burhan Wani angle this time. That angle may well have been directed towards stirring up trouble within the Kashmir Valley. Clearly, by almost adopting Burhan Wani in the way that Nawaz Sharif has, he's trying in a way to incite passions in the valley. So he's done both, catered to the domestic constituency, tried to incite trouble in the Kashmir Valley, and importantly tried to internationalize Kashmir. On the third count, clearly he has failed, as Mr. Parthasarathy rightly pointed out. As far as the domestic constituency goes, we know it's very clear that it's the army that continues to call the shots in Pakistan, not so much the civilian leadership. The fact, though, is it will be interesting to see how his comments play out within the valley. Okay. Clearly, this is someone who is trying to add fuel to the fire and in the process possibly burning himself.
Oh, absolutely, burning himself and burning that so-called Kashmir Azadi cause, because General, it is very clear, General Raj Qadian, that a terrorist, an armed terrorist who was involved in the killing of security personnel, who was named in FIRs in killing of Kashmiri sarpanches and their children, Nawaz Sharif calls him a political leader. What does this speak of, what does it say of Nawaz Sharif himself?
I think the first point it proves is that he was a Pakistani protege. He was their protection. He was propped up by them. Number two, it's my reading, Gaurav, that whenever the militancy in the valley flags down, Pakistan always does something to prop it up. I think prior to the UN General Assembly session, they had to do something. Burhan Wani was incidental. He provided a spark. If he had not been killed, something else would have been found by them. Number two, I noticed, I may be wrong, Ambassador Partha Sarthi, that throughout he kept talking about Kashmir, but the state is not Kashmir, it is Jammu and Kashmir.
Yes. The reason
I
he
don't know
himself
why
is
he
Kashmiri.
doesn't want to include Jammu
He
in that.
himself is Kashmiri who left the valley.
Yes.
True. No, but if it is the Indian state, it is Jammu and Kashmir. I know, I see the point. Third thing, it must be laughable when he says that Pakistan is genuinely a victim of terrorism.
Yes.
A state that can hide Osama bin Laden under the nose of the military. A state that is treating Hafiz Saeed, who carries a $10 million award from Americans, treat him as a VIP, provided special trains for him to hold a rally. That state, I don't think, has a right to be claiming that they're fighting against terrorism.
And
I think they are
his
glorifying terrorism.
His voice was so defensive. His shoulders were drooping. Look at the way he was speaking. Clearly a man who was perhaps thinking how is he faring compared to, what would General Raheel Sharif say? But, which brings me to the point, G.V.L. Narasimha Rao, this was a man Prime Minister Narendra Modi was investing in. This was a man, Nawaz Sharif.
Gaurav, you cannot select Prime Ministers of Pakistan. I think you have to work with the Prime Minister of Pakistan. You had given him an opportunity until he proved himself to be completely unequal to the task. And it seems that today also he spoke to the Army Chief Raheel Sharif, and possibly he's looking for some kind of a pat on the back after he finished speaking. His speech to me sounded full of desperation and seemed to lack conviction. And one statement, I think, you see, Wani is India calls him a terrorist. The whole world knows that he's a terrorist, Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist.
Yes.
For Pakistan, Hafiz Saeed is a social activist. And for them, Dawood Ibrahim is a businessman. So this is how Pakistan is supporting terrorists. It's how they're harboring terrorists. This is yet another advertisement for terrorism for Pakistan.
Oh, absolutely, and it exposes
I think one of
Pakistan.
the statements he mentioned that really seemed to.
Yes.
No, one sentence, Gaurav.
Yes.
I think there was a statement that he made where he said we all need to fight terrorism, but countries should not pass laws, domestic laws,
Yes.
which will have an extraterritorial jurisdiction. So the U.S. congressmen's attempts to bring in a bill, the bill that was introduced seemed to be weighing heavily on his mind.
Oh,
and he's certainly
absolutely,
really,
because Pakistan could
perturbed
well
by
be
the development.
designated. Absolutely,
That's
sir, a global terrorist organization. But on Kashmir, as you rightly pointed out, as all my guests are rightly pointing out, the focus on Kashmir, he's at an international platform, and all he's ranting about is Kashmir. Let's listen in to him talking about these alleged human rights violations in Kashmir. Let's listen in.
Confrontation should not be our destiny in South Asia. Pakistan wants peace with India. We have gone the extra mile to achieve this, repeatedly offering a dialogue to address all outstanding issues. But India has posed unacceptable preconditions to engage in a dialogue. Let us be clear. Talks are no favor to Pakistan. Talks are in the interest of both countries. They are essential to resolve our differences, especially in Jammu and Kashmir dispute, and to avert the danger of any escalation. Mr. President, peace and normalization between Pakistan and India cannot be achieved without a resolution of the Kashmir dispute. This is an objective evaluation, not a partisan position.
Rajdeep, the repeated references to Kashmir, the fact that he's saying that talks are no favor to Pakistan, belligerent or desperate for talks?
Look, at the same time, and you can play that later, he kept saying, particularly towards the end of the speech, how Pakistan is open to the idea of talks with India, and Pakistan would welcome a dialogue with India on all issues, including Jammu and Kashmir. So clearly this is Nawaz Sharif playing some kind of a double game. At one level you talk tough and interfere in India's internal affairs. The fact is that you are raising issues like Burhan Wani, which you know will be a red rag to the Indian establishment in Delhi. And at the same time you talk about a dialogue and an engagement. I think Mr. Sharif is aware that he is at the moment caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. At one level he's got to deal with Rahil Sharif and the pressures that he faces as a civilian leadership in a country where the army treats Pakistan as its own extension, its own state. On the other hand, he wants to project some kind of an international image for Pakistan as a responsible nuclear power, as a country which wants to engage with India. It's a double act. Pakistan has tried to perform it in the past. Unfortunately, over the years, we haven't done enough to call the bluff of Pakistan.
Yes.
And at the same time, whether we like it or not, they are our neighbors. We will have to deal with them. We will have to engage with them. The question is on what terms, and that's what I'd like to ask Mr. Parthasarathy. Given the nature of this speech, can we expect India to have, well, what else are you going to do? Are we now saying as a result of this speech, Gaurav, that the Prime Minister of India will not go to the SAARC summit? As you rightly pointed out, the same Prime Minister went and met the same Pakistani Prime Minister 9 months ago, and an impromptu visit for his birthday and his granddaughter's wedding.
Yes.
So we have to now take a clear call. Do we want to have an uninterrupted and uninterruptible dialogue, or do we want to reset the engagement now on our own terms?
But I think all this uninterrupted and uninterruptible stuff is out of the window, Ambassador Parthasarathy, isn't it?
I think
that old template is buried now, isn't it, Ambassador?
I think this uninterrupted and uninterruptible, this was sort of a terminology of my predecessor in Karachi, my friend Manish Shankar Iyer. Nobody else in India takes it seriously. The fact of the matter is, we were prepared for dialogue, and I think we made it very, very clear that if Pakistan observes the undertaking that they gave to Prime Minister Vajpayee, that territory under its control will not be used for terrorism, then certainly it will be madness of India to reject a dialogue. But that terrorism now, Rajdeep, it ended for 4 years and they were back to it the moment Kayani came in. So that has to be made irrevocable. Unless that becomes irrevocable, you're going to get back to square one. This is point one. Point two, for the first time, they are dreadfully isolated. You know, they seriously believed that the Russians were going to back them because they're having military exercises there. I mean, they don't understand the depth of the India-Russian relationship.
And the Russians backed off. They said no exercise in Gilgit-Baltistan. No exercise will be okay.
And the Russian reaction to them was much stronger than United States or Britain.
And so there is no uninterrupted, no, but is that the template? GVL Narasimha Rao.
Just a minute. I just want to say, by all means, you have a neighbor, you have to engage them. But terrorism cannot go, you know, when our soldiers getting killed, our people getting killed, Bombay under threat, all sorts of things. This is not a climate for a dialogue. There has to be a climate for a dialogue. So and make it very clear.
Yes.
You are prepared to talk to them, but on the basis of an irrevocable end to terrorism.
Terrorism has to end first. Is that the template, GVL Narasimha Rao? Or will we suddenly see another round of Sadi Shawl diplomacy? Or is that template buried now?
Gaurav, I think that can be anybody else's doctrine. This government's position is stated in writing. I think the government had communicated to the Foreign Secretary. India's Foreign Secretary had written to Pakistan Secretary saying we are willing for a dialogue, but we want discussion on cross-border terrorism and POK. So that's given. So we are not willing to have dialogue just because Pakistan makes some statements at the international level. And these statements mean nothing. Sharif is a puppet Prime Minister. Nawaz Sharif is a puppet. And the whole world knows this.
Yes.
So what kind of a talks can you have based on a statement that Nawaz Sharif makes? And today's statement is actually provocative enough. for India not to engage in any dialogue with Pakistan until it delivers on its promises concretely, conclusively. I think this is a provocation enough.
Okay,
And
so
they have
provocation,
failed.
that's a strong statement. Rajdeep,
this
Rajdeep,
is
you are
the
listening to
moment of
GVL Narasimha Rao.
But Mr. Narasimha Rao, didn't you know this? Sir, didn't you know this in December of 2015? If you say today he's a puppet prime minister, didn't you know about it in December 2015? That's my concern. There's this flip-flop. At one level, there's the sari shawl diplomacy. The next time, when the Hurriyat leaders are invited to the Jammu and to the Pakistan ambassador's residence, you call the flip-flop must stop now. The flip-flop must stop.
There is no flip-flop.
And you need to tell the nation what is the direction you want to take your Pakistan policy in. There is an incoherence. There is an incoherence.
I want to say something.
Okay. So is this a flip-flop?
And you will need to address the issues in Kashmir.
Is there a new
You will need to address the issues inside Kashmir.
Is there a new Pakistan policy emerging, Ambassador Parthasarathy?
I see the contours of a new policy taking place even before Uri. The most significant step which had been taken, and I've been observing this very closely because I've been advocating it. Pakistan is not only a nuisance bilaterally, it's a nuisance regionally.
Yes.
SARC has failed because of Pakistan. According to what we agreed, we should today be a customs union and another 4 years an economic union. They have not even signed a free trade area. I think what is the most important step is we have moved towards having an Eastern SARC, which is India, Nepal.
SARC minus Pakistan.
No. Eastern SARC, India, Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and Bhutan.
Yes.
We are all together. And we are building energy corridors, we are building road corridors, something which Pakistan does not agree to.
Rajdeep, that's the new template.
No, most important.
That's the new template that's emerging.
We have told
SARC minus Pakistan. Pakistan doesn't want to join us. India moves without,
I want to say this.
Pakistan.
The most important signal we've sent, everybody has missed out.
So I would like to see that happen, Gaurav. I would like to see that happen. It's easier said than done.
No, I'm coming to that.
It's easier said than done.
Rajdeep,
And whether we like it or not, Gaurav and Mr. Parthasarathy and Mr. Narasimha Rao, there is a problem in Kashmir that we will have to address.
I'm coming
if
to
we
that.
don't address that, the
I'm
likes
coming
of
to that.
Nawaz Sharif
I'm
will fish in troubled waters.
Rajdeep,
Let's not run away from
No,
that.
but can Pakistan be made irrelevant? General Qadian.
No.
Can Pakistan
one
be made...
little
Okay,
thing. Before Rajdeep, I am not getting into the politics of Kashmir. The politics of Kashmir will be handled. But we are talking of external policy. Now, with regard to external policy, what has happened is that we have not invited SARC to Goa. We've invited BIMSTEC.
Yes.
Our future is economic integration. Economic integration with our East and economic integration with our West through Iran to Afghanistan, and wait for Pakistan to join in. I'm not excluding them.
And
I would love
why should India
Pakistan
be
to
held
join.
hostage by a state sponsor of terror?
The first thing we are doing, I think that's very important, telling Pakistan, you cannot act as a spoiler in South Asian cooperation.
Yes.
And we'll bypass you.
Is that possible, General Qadian? Because, and both General Qadian and Ambassador Parthasarathy, diplomatically and militarily, can Pakistan be made irrelevant
No, I don't think
in
they
this
can.
region? No, irrelevant to the extent, as far as they want to spread terror in this region, we can fight off their terror and yet grow. General Qadian, is that possible?
I think the maximum contribution made by anyone in making Pakistan irrelevant is Pakistan itself. Their actions have convinced the world not so much about India's diplomacy obviously has been successful, but their own action. They forgot to read the wind that today...
No, General, I'm specifically asking. You see, if the entire pressure on the government is talk to Pakistan, otherwise there will be terror. Talk to Pakistan because there's a terror gun kept to your head. So can the armed forces or intelligence agencies ensure that that terror gun is no longer kept to our head? Because the cost for Pakistan should be so high that you spread terror in India and you bleed much more. Is that doable? Or will we have to talk to Pakistan because we are scared that terror will hit us?
I'm sure if we have the determination, it is doable. We have the capacity, we have the methods, we have the means. If the political will remains strong, it is doable. And I think sooner or later we will have to do it.
Okay.
If Pakistan does not manage to I fully support the diplomatic efforts, but if we carry on only with those efforts, what happens if there is another attack in 1 week?
Exactly.
You can't
Ambassador
guarantee.
Parthasarathy?
No,
Unless Pakistan is made to pay a price.
General, let me make one thing very clear. I am very clear that we need retribution. But retribution, not that we should rush into. Retribution after very careful sort of
Deliberation.
preparation
Yes.
and no messing around. How we do it is to really be an intelligence-driven armed forces operation.
GVL Narasimha Rao,
I am very clear about
does your government have the stomach for it? Or will, as Rajdeep says, will we see yet another flip-flop, a very hard stance at one point, and suddenly, because Sushma Swaraj as External Affairs Minister, when she was in the opposition, as leader of opposition, she would say 10 heads for one, but as External Affairs Minister, she was engaging with Pakistan.
Gaurav, I think you have seen only the initial build-up, but you have seen how successfully we have now cornered Pakistan on the international stage. I think it would, for 70 years, I want Rajdeep to comment on this. For 70 years, have you ever seen any government being successful in cornering Pakistan on the global stage? To literally make every country really tell Pakistan on its face, to end terrorism infrastructure, to stop messing up with the terror. I think this
So
is
that was said after 26/11 also. Sir, that was said after 26/11 also. The world, sir, the world supported India after
No.
Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao, after 26/11, the world supported India in the same way.
Never.
My point.
No, every country advised India to talk to Pakistan.
Sir, the truth
every
is,
time both countries were asked to have restraint, asked to have restraint and talk. But now everyone knows it is Pakistan which has to act and deliver. So the pressure is on Pakistan. This
So
is
are you
not like
telling me-
26/11.
So are you telling me?
I ask you to check your
Sir-
facts. Please go back and
So
check.
are you telling me that if there is another, sir, sir, I am asking you a simple question. Are you telling me tomorrow that we have decided now that there will be absolutely no talks with Pakistan so long as terror continues, which means the Prime Minister will not go for SARC, so there will be no multilateral level dialogue as well with Pakistan,
won't go.
that we will not have any exchanges at the cultural level when it comes to critical issues like water? Are we saying that we are now virtually ending all relations for now with Pakistan? Is that what you're saying, GVL Narasimha Rao, to me? Are you saying that India has decided that Pakistan is a persona non grata,
honestly,
pariah country?
Rajdeep,
Is that what you're saying to me? Because my worry is 1 month from now, I will hear something different.
I think everyone,
Go on, Mr. Narasimha Rao.
everyone, I think who is following the developments can come to that conclusion, can come to the relevant conclusions. When your Home Minister of the country calls Pakistan a terror state, formally, what does it indicate to you?
What are indications?
Does
No,
it require any greater clarity?
I think,
Sir, will there be
I
a-
think Rajdeep.
But is our aim to end
No,
terrorism?
Rajdeep,
What
let-
is our aim? Is our
Rajdeep,
aim to end terror
all right,
or not?
let me
No,
answer.
you should tell us that.
No,
You should tell us
Can
that,
we end
Mr.
terror with
Narasimha
this?
Rao.
No,
What is the bigger game plan?
Let me answer it in diplomatic terms. In diplomatic terms, for the first time, we are hell-bent on isolating them to start with in South Asia.
But
That
what
is
will that
very,
achieve?
very clear to me.
What will
We have
that
never
achieve?
done it before. I've been advocating this for a very long time. And I'm very happy it's happening.
No.
Next,
But what will isolate
just let me, it does not mean we have no process of engagement. You have an ambassador there. You can talk. There are occasions when we will talk when through forums no one hears of. But a formal dialogue which leads nowhere
Okay.
is just not worth it, and you have to turn the heat.
No, but
Diplomatically,
what
it
does
has started.
isolating Pakistan achieve, Ambassador? Because many would say Iran was isolated, North Korea was isolated, but that has had very limited impact. And Pakistan is far more relevant than either Iran or North Korea. That is what apologists say.
No. I have no doubt. It is not going to be an easy exercise. But the other options have failed. You are giving try to something which you are not being confrontational. Okay? You are now telling them that if you are talking about Kashmir, fine, I'll take you to the cleaners in Balochistan.
Okay.
You are now for the first time working with the Afghans. I would go a step further to corner Pakistan. I would de-recognize the Durand line. I would say that the Durand line, it will please the Afghans no end. If we say
And the Baluch, sir,
and the Baluch,
and the
that we
Baluchs.
don't that this is a border which not even the Taliban recognizes the Durand line.
Yes.
So I think
Rajdeep, so do you see
we
this?
do have the leverage,
As the
especially
big-
given the fact that Pakistan is fighting on two fronts.
Yes. And fighting a war within, and that could well be Pakistan's Achilles heel. And that is where Nawaz Sharif is looking so cornered, Rajdeep, because one, he's fighting at multiple levels, a hostile India, hostile Afghanistan, a Baluch problem within. Do you see this as a...
And
as
the
a-
Iranians hopping mad.
And the Iranians are hopping mad. This is a new template that Pakistan has never been in, Rajdeep.
No.
And that's not
I
our
take
doing.
the
It's
point
happened.
that there is
They've
this
done
new
it to
template
themselves.
which is trying to encircle, isolate Pakistan. My limited point to you, Gaurav, is what are we going to get out of it unless we have a coherent policy that also deals with terrorism, that also then deals with the international fallout? Are we going to be, for example, able to get China and the US to be on the same page as us? Unlikely. Let's be clear. It's very easy to say that we are now have a new template. The question is, is this new template sustainable? And B, will this new template lead to the end of terrorism or as actually an escalation of terrorism? We've seen whenever we've engaged with Pakistan, there has been a drop in terrorism. Whenever we've not engaged, those same elements steer mischief.
You're
Whether you've
totally
engaged,
wrong.
whether you've engaged with Pakistan or not engaged with Pakistan, terrorism has followed.
Rajdeep, between 1994 and
The scale of it.
No,
The
between,
scale,
you've had
listen,
massive
the
terror
scale of
attacks.
it.
listen.
The
Between-
scale of it.
No.
Rajdeep, between 1994 and 1998, we had no
Yes.
dialogue. There was terrorism fell. When we resumed the dialogue, Kargil followed. So again we went in, then you almost went to war. So to say that terrorism is a dialogue is a mantra which is going to end terrorism, I can argue the reverse historically.
And factually, the best
I'm
time,
not saying it's going to end.
Rajdeep,
I'm
the
not
best
I'm not
time,
saying it's going to end.
Rajdeep,
My
the best
worry
time
is-
people say is between India and Pakistan was the so-called 2004 to 2008
And let me add-
when India and Pakistan almost
me add,
sorted out
between
Kashmir.
19
And 2008 you had
1994 and
1990.
1998, when we didn't talk, in fact terrorism cooled off a bit in Kashmir.
Yes.
But that was because of our counterinsurgency also. It was not just them.
Sir, I can give you the period between 2004 and 8.
Correct.
Sir, the period between 2004 and 8 when actually temperatures went down. My limited
no,
point
Between
is I think the
2004 and 8,
government-
Rajdeep, that was my point.
let me answer. Rajdeep,
Between 2004 and 8, when you said temperatures went down, we had that massive train attack in Mumbai, 187
no, even that
people were
aside,
killed.
2004 and 2007, it went down
Yes.
because Musharraf kept his word. They no longer feel obliged
Yes.
to keep their word. The moment they go back to their word, Rajdeep,
Yes.
I will start dialogue.
And then
I will start
187 people
Let
died
them
in
go
Mumbai
back.
in 2006. How do you
Let them
explain
end
that?
terrorism.
That was Lashkar-e-Taiba, that was Pakistan. And the moment they did it, again 26/11 happened in 2008. So Pakistan was, when they had that
I think
period
General
of, period
Kadia
of
wants to
peace,
talk.
Rajdeep,
be
in
clear.
that period of peace, they were planning a
Let's be
26/11
clear, sir.
Mumbai terror attack.
Gaurav, yes. Gaurav, let's be clear. There are elements in the Pakistani state, the ISI, those involved in the army leadership, and we saw the way Sharif spoke about Burhan Wani, who are part of the same group, which is going to try to do what Bhutto said, try and bleed India with 1,000 cuts.
Bleed them
that
back.
group will continue to do what
Bleed-
it can
bleed-
to
Rajdeep,
undermine the Indian state.
Bleed them
the
back.
question is, do we bleed them back?
Yes.
We have to be ready and we have to have the stomach for it. We
Yes.
have to have the stomach for
I
it.
think
That's
we've got the
question.
stomach for it.
Do we have the stomach
Okay.
for
I think
that
we've got the
kind
stomach
of
and the
a-
means for it.
I have an army general.
great.
I have an
If the
army
army
general
general-
who served in Jammu and Kashmir. Rajdeep, very interesting point you've raised. I want to come back to this point. I have to take a break at this point. Let me come back to this big point. If Pakistan hits us, will we hit Pakistan back? As Arun Shourie used to say, or Ram Madhav has just said, the whole jaw for a tooth. Does India have the stomach for it? Or is this a jumla? This and lots more coming up on the other side of a short break. Stay with us.
You are watching.
India Today's Prerna Desai Thakur now joins us live from New York. I quickly want to cut across and listen into Prerna, your take on what Nawaz Sharif said, and is he isolated? The way he's been getting a dressing down from everyone he speaks to about Kashmir, how is Pakistan camp reacting?
Well, Gaurav, as expected, he has reinforced the deadlock that exists at this point in time, calling for Kashmir as being the central point to getting on the negotiation table, while India says that terrorism is, what is the breaking point for India. And clearly one feeds off the other, and that issue was not addressed in this talk. The other thing is he spent about 80% of his talk on India when it was Pakistan's UNGA address, and clearly points to the fact that Pakistan is feeling itself cornered right now, with two US legislators just yesterday bringing out a legislation to term Pakistan as a terrorist state. Other than that, there have been statements from President Barack Obama about the proxy war that is being waged from from Pakistan's soil. There are many statements that are coming out here in New York that could have cornered Pakistan, and I think that is what the strategy was, to put the blame on India at this point, to say that Pakistan is only a retaliatory force here in some way, and bringing up Kashmir's right of self-determination and not addressing the Baloch issue, which is inside Pakistan, is also one of the double speaks that happened today.
Oh, absolutely. And the number of Baloch nationalists who are protesting outside the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Prerna, stay on with me. General Qadian, your take. The way Pakistan Army commits massacres in Balochistan, uses F-16 aircraft in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and heavy artillery, and in India, the use of pellet guns against a murderous mob, he calls that a human rights violation.
Well, Nawaz Sharif, coming back to his speech for half a minute, he did not come out as a leader who is assertive and confident. He came out as a very low official who is reading out a script given to him. Some of it may have been cut and paste from his past speeches to the United Nations General Assembly. Obviously, there are human rights violations. When Bhukti says he wants asylum in India, Musharraf yesterday in an interview said he is a terrorist, must not be given asylum.
Yes.
Because he is fighting for freedom. I asked him a question, what would you call the Hurriyat leaders then? Would you also call them terrorists or no? Because they are also fighting for freedom. Pakistan, the language is a double-speak. But I was going to make another point, which the question put to Narasimha Rao was, whether will we ever talk to Pakistan or no? I think in international relations, there cannot be black and white answers to every question. History is witness to it. Nobody during the 6 years of Second World War imagined that Germany and France will ever talk to each other again.
Yes.
But soon after the war, they not only talked to each other, they very amicably settled the ownership of Strasbourg, which is in the east of France.
But Germany and France were not sending terrorists.
Neighbors.
France wasn't sending terrorists into...
No.
That's a very important aspect. They wanted to be friends. We cannot be friends with Pakistan as long as Pakistan is sending terrorists into India. That's the basic red line. Ambassador Pakistan.
Gaurav, you are right. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Yes, sir.
Today we are not talking to them because they are sponsoring terrorism. Tomorrow, if that condition is met, they take tangible and credible steps to curb terrorism. I don't think we should have a problem in talking to them. We are neighbors, we can't change that fact.
Yes. Okay. Ambassador Parthasarathy, the way you look at Nawaz Sharif's address to the United Nations General Assembly, you agree with General Qadian, it wasn't like the head of a government, it wasn't a strong prime minister, it was some lowly babu who was just reading off some lines. You agree?
General, I wouldn't be surprised if in the morning, after all, he had to take Rahil Sharif's approval by calling him and speaking to him before he came here. I wouldn't be surprised if a large amount of that speech was written by somebody in GHQ. So, by one of Rahil Sharif's boys. The man is totally a prisoner of his armed forces as far as dealing with India or any foreign policy matter. He has serious differences with Rahil Sharif, which is being accentuated by who should be in charge of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. After all, the army would also like to make a bit of money and not leave it all for the politicians on the corridor. The fact of the matter is that he has no say in India on relations with India. So I think, and lastly, he is facing serious corruption charges because his 3 kids have bank accounts in Panama.
Yes. And perhaps that's why we see so much rhetoric.
I think the man is weak.
Yes, and that's why so much rhetoric on Kashmir.
And he's just recovering from heart surgery, for God's sake.
Okay, okay.
So I think you should give him some latitude and all that, but he cut a pathetic figure, and the worst part of it is, even the Chinese did not back him on this one.
Yes, yes, because it is very clear.
It was very clear. If you see the declaration of what happened in his meeting with the Chinese Prime Minister, nothing emerged. And I don't think India need to do anything. Between Afghanistan and Bangladesh, they will deal with Pakistan and SAARC.
And they've been decimated, Pakistan's being decimated diplomatically. GVL Narasimha Rao, the question that Rajdeep had posed to you just a short while back, what's the template on engagement with Pakistan? Will there be clarity in the manner in which, the BJP government, the NDA government will deal with Pakistan? Will Prime Minister Narendra Modi go for SAARC in November?
Gaurav, I think you can make possibly some intelligent guesses, but certainly the kind of relationship we have with Pakistan, the kind of exchanges that we have had with them at the foreign secretary levels, I think that should really give you a good indication as to how things are likely to move in the coming months and coming years, and also the manner in which Afghanistan, Bangladesh, even Iran, how all the neighbors of Pakistan have been actually calling it a state sponsoring terror, and the kind of success we have had within this region should tell us we will not do anything that will give even a bit of legitimacy to Pakistan. The idea is to help Pakistan hammer it from all sides, and this has been a very successful strategy. I don't see why we should be giving them any credibility or legitimacy at a stage when they themselves feel completely marginalized. And that's the kind of a helpless state of mind that Mr. Sharif seems to have actually come to this meeting or before delivering this speech. And also, I think the fact that he spoke to the army chief of Pakistan, and this has become, just one sentence, how this has become public knowledge. That shows Nawaz Sharif's position in the power structure in Pakistan, and that he spoke to him, he discussed with him what to speak at UN General Assembly. This is the worst kind of advertisement for Pakistan and its Prime Minister on the international stage.
Okay, Prerna, is that what's also happening on ground, apart from a very, very aggressive Afghanistan, a very aggressive India? That's the situation that's likely to be on the 26th. There's also the Baluchis, the Sindhis, people from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, women from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, all protesting against Pakistan. How big are these protests on ground in New York, outside the UNGA?
Well, it was an absolute visual of hypocrisy that is being going on vis-a-vis, crimes that have been committed within Pakistan. As Nawaz Sharif was speaking inside the UNGA, outside the Balochi nationals were protesting just outside the UN. And we had spoken to them earlier as well in the day, and their stand is very clear that Pakistan has illegally occupied Balochistan, and they need to be free, and they need to form a separate state of their own. There have been mass murders, mass graves that have been discovered in Balochistan, and these are issues that have kind of been under the, pushed under the carpet, and it's only recently that these issues have really come up to the fore, and probably the first time that the Baloch issue is even being discussed in Pakistan, in United Nations. So there is pressure really building up from every single quarter for Pakistan, and what you saw today, Nawaz Sharif trying to reflect that blame on India, was just a response to what is being happening.
Okay. And Ambassador Parthasarathy, how do you see this? I believe this is the first time ever that Afghanistan has hit out at Pakistan at the United Nations General Assembly, talking about where are Taliban commanders living. The attack on the American University in Kabul was planned in Pakistan. Has Pakistan seen this kind of an attack before?
No, this is what has unnerved them. The fact of the matter is, we are still to wait what Bangladesh is going to say.
Okay.
So they will get it from Bangladesh also. So I think the fact is, as I go back to my fundamental thing, if you are going to knock them very hard on SAARC, now is the time. There is, as they say, there is a tide in the affairs of men, you know.
Yes.
You take it now, or you're going to miss it for a very long time.
Okay.
Because right now, you have an alternative to SAARC, which will be a dynamic organization. You have presented that dynamic organization to the leaders of BRICS, which includes China. In effect, by doing that, you're also telling China, you're not a part of this. We are bringing them.
Yes. So,
and Pakistan has been trying to get China into SAARC. So I think keep Pakistan aside.
okay.
You know, let them cool their heels for some time, because diplomatically that has
You've
to be
been
done.
ambassador, you've been, India's High Commissioner to Pakistan. Will Pakistan come around, or will, we see perhaps a couple of years of Pakistan saying peace till the time it regroups, rearms, strengthens its terrorists once again, and after 3 years another 26/11?
Let me be very blunt on this. They are having serious problems in 3 provinces. The military is deployed on 3 provinces. As Sharif himself said, 200,000 of them are fighting their own Pashtuns.
Yes.
Well, if Afghanistan and India cannot build on that, then we should give up diplomacy.
207,000 to be to be precise.
And
207,000.
And 800,000 refugees.
Yes.
In their own homes.
Yes.
Who've been driven out by aerial bombardment and artillery shelling.
From the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area, and they're unable to return to their homes.
So I think I think Sharif realizes that, and what is going to happen is Raheel Sharif may leave as a hero.
Okay.
But when the blowback comes of his Zarb-e-Azab,
yes,
the army is going to feel the heat.
And that is something that Pakistan should beware of. But G.V.L. Narasimha Rao, Ambassador Partha Sarthi says, does India have it in it for that last mile? Cut Pakistan out, a new template, BIMSTEC, BRICS, that's the new regional alignment. Is this a long-term policy for government of India? Cut Pakistan, cut terrorists out, and cut them out completely, irrespective of what apologists may say.
No, Gaurav, I think certainly, as I understand, the attempt is not only diplomatically isolate Pakistan, also economically squeeze Pakistan, and also try and build pressure on the terror infrastructure that exists on the soil, and tell the whole world that this is the kind of a risk that is emanating to the entire world. The terror threat emanating to the entire world is coming from there. I think actions have been happening on all these fronts, and they have really proved to be extremely successful, and it's a strategy that has borne fruit. And Pakistan is literally, I think when the Prime Minister made that statement on Balochistan, you have to see the kind of statements that Pakistani guests make on your television channels. I have not seen any of them in the last month or so after the Independence Day speech. They have never been the same people that spoke on Indian television earlier.
Okay.
The pressure is clearly showing on Pakistan.
But he's now trying to mount counter pressure.
Their internal turmoil.
The internal turmoil, but he's trying to mount counter pressure, because I want all our guests to listen in to this point that he raised when he talked about the United Nations independently investigating developments in Jammu and Kashmir, and the fact that he's saying that he has a dossier. Pakistan has a dossier that they want to submit to the UN Secretary General. Let's listen in to Nawaz Sharif before I get you more on the story.
Confrontation should not be our destiny in South Asia. Pakistan wants peace with India. We have gone the extra mile to achieve this, repeatedly offering a dialogue to address all outstanding issues. But India has posed unacceptable preconditions to engage in a dialogue. Let us be clear. Talks are no favor to Pakistan. Talks are in the interest of both countries. They are essential to resolve our differences, especially in Jammu and Kashmir dispute, and to avert the danger of any escalation.
There are reactions coming in to what Nawaz Sharif just spoke. Shaukat Ali Kashmiri is a leader from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Let's listen in.
فلسطینیوں کی تحریک کا بنیادی جور جو تھا وہ سیکولر تھا. کسی بھی خطے کے اندر کوئی بھی لبریشن جو موومنٹ ہوتی ہے وہ اس کا لازمن جو ہے کہ اگر وہ سیکولر نہیں ہے, اس کی بنیادیں سیکولرزم پہ نہیں ہیں, تو وہ لبریشن موومنٹ نہیں ہو سکتی. وہ کمیونل موومنٹ ہو سکتی ہے, کوئی اور فاسسٹ موومنٹ ہو سکتی ہے, لیکن وہ اس موومنٹ کو آپ نیشنل لبریشن کی موومنٹ نہیں کہہ سکتے. نواز شریف صاحب بنیادی طور پہ میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ جس پرائم منسٹر کی اپنے ملک کے اندر جو ہے اس کی تمام ساری اپوزیشن پارٹیاں اس کو انڈیا کا ایجنٹ کہتی ہوں, تو مجھے نہیں لگتا کہ ان کا کوئی گہرا مطالعہ ہے کشمیر کا, یا کشمیر کی سوسائٹی کو وہ سمجھتے ہیں, کشمیر کے کلچر کو اور تاریخ سے واقف ہیں. پھر سب سے بڑی بات یہ ہے کہ جو ان کے ناک کے نیچے, جو ان کے زیر انتظام کشمیر ہے, وہاں کے کشمیری کس طرح کے مسائل کا شکار ہیں, وہ کتنے کانسٹیٹیوشن ان کی اپنی پارٹی کا جس کو انہوں نے انسٹال کیا ہے ایز پرائم منسٹر آف آزاد کشمیر, وہ جو انٹرم کانسٹیٹیوشن ہے اس کو وہ کہتے ہیں کہ یہ دستاویز غلامی ہے, یہ پاکستانیوں نے ہمارے گلے میں ایک پٹا ڈالا ہے غلامی کا. تو نواز شریف صاحب پہلے تو اس پٹے کو کھولے نا جو آزاد کشمیر کے لوگوں کے گلے میں ڈالا ہوا ہے. وہ تو گلگت بلتستان کو پہلے لبریٹ کریں. وہاں 40 سال کی سزائیں جو ہے اینٹی ٹیررسٹ کورٹ نے جو ہے وہ لوگوں کو دی ہیں. ان لوگوں کو جو پیسفل اسٹرگل پہ یقین رکھتے ہیں, وہ لوگ جو گلگت بلتستان کے لوگوں کے بنیادی سیاسی, سماجی اور معاشی حقوق کی بات کرتے ہیں, تو میں یہ تو ایک نواز شریف صاحب ایک شاعری کر رہے ہیں کشمیریوں کے ساتھ.
And India has hit back at Pakistan. Vikas Swaroop, spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs, he says the only condition India has for Pakistan is stop terror. Is that too much for Pakistan to accept? For talks to resume, stop terror, we shall talk. Why is that so difficult for Pakistan? That aspect and much more on the other side of a short break. Stay with us.
Hey.
You are watching India.
For the whole world, Burhan Wani was a terrorist, an armed terrorist of the Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist organization, and that's a banned terrorist organization. But for Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, he was a young Kashmiri leader. That tells you how committed Pakistan is to combating terror. But that's one part of the story. A state sponsor of terror says that the United Nations should send an independent fact-finding body into India to investigate what happened in Jammu and Kashmir, and that Pakistan will give a dossier to the United Nations Secretary General. Let's listen in to the Kashmir rant of Nawaz Sharif.
We demand the immediate release of all Kashmiri political prisoners, an end to the curfew, freedom for the Kashmiris to demonstrate peacefully, urgent medical help for the injured, and abrogation of India's draconian laws. Mr. President, the Security Council has called for the exercise of the right to self-determination by the people of Jammu and Kashmir through a free and fair plebiscite held under United Nations auspices. The people of Kashmir have waited 70 years for implementation of this promise.
General Raj Qadian, what do you make of this Kashmir rant of Nawaz Sharif when he talks about a dossier being presented to UN Secretary General and an independent fact-finding body coming into J&K, a UN body?
Nothing new in what Mr. Nawaz Sharif said. The world has heard it many times over. That is why the Secretary General didn't even mention the subject of Kashmir in his remarks. I think the only good part of Nawaz Sharif's speech was that it wasn't long. That is all I will say. All other points I think Ambassador Partha Sarthi is very succinctly covered. There is nothing new that he said. It was expected that he'll speak about Kashmir. Let us wait for our Foreign Minister what she has to say to rebut it.
Yes.
One has no doubt what she will say, but she being an extremely good orator, she will effectively counter. But what Nawaz Sharif said, it was expected that he'll talk about Kashmir. It is slightly strange for him to say that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism. Pakistan is a sponsor of terrorism.
Oh,
If some of them
absolutely.
who are bad terrorists for them are hitting them, it is just their own fault.
Absolutely, and Ambassador
That's all I have
Parthasarathy,
to say on this.
how will UN, because you've served so extensively as a diplomat for decades, how will the UN look at this speech? How will the world respond to this?
He said one thing which is factually correct,
Okay.
that he's waited 70 years for implementation of those resolutions. Those resolutions couldn't be implemented because the first condition was to withdraw Pakistani troops.
Yes.
And those raiders they sent in. It was Pakistan who made those resolutions unimplementable, and we moved to Simla.
Yes.
So I think he needs a bit of history lessons also.
Okay. So this was just, his rant only to satisfy himself, satisfy Pakistan army?
No, you're wrong. His main point was to satisfy General Rahil Sharif so that he can keep his job.
Will he keep his job?
Let's wait and see.
In your appreciation?
I can't have an appreciation at this stage.
Okay.
After midnight.
Okay. GVL Narasimha Rao, the way we see the government try and corner Pakistan, it's given the army a free hand in Jammu and Kashmir, it's cornering Pakistan diplomatically, economically. But will the government declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror? Now, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, independent MP, he's saying he's going to move a private member's bill. Is that possible, GVL Narasimha Rao?
No, Gaurav, I think I would not really wish to comment on what else possibly is under consideration or will come under the consideration of the government in future. But the intent and the kind of actions that have been taken over the past few months would suggest that the idea is to isolate Pakistan and build
No, but
pressure
shouldn't
on
the
them
government
and
be
to
taking
evolve the
independent
international
steps?
consensus
Like
that
withdraw most
Pakistan-
favored nation status? Ambassador Parthasarathy, is that doable?
No, I think
MFN?
let's go step by step.
No,
Let's go step by step.
Okay, GVL, yeah, go on GVL Narasimha Rao.
No, I think Ms. Parthasarathy could add, but I would only say the attempt is to even economically squeeze Pakistan. So whatever needs to be done, I think all that will be under the possible list of items under consideration. What all actual actions will be taken in the coming weeks and months, I think that's for the government to take a very conscious decision. But having achieved success with all its goals, in terms of diplomatic goals, I think more actions certainly will follow. And Pakistan is already feeling the heat, feeling isolated, and unable to really get its act together.
Okay.
All that we need to do amidst this operation Zarb-e-Azab, where so many Pashtuns have died, if we are really serious, we should declare the Durand line a disputed border, and to say that is an issue for the Pashtuns to resolve according to their sentiments.
How will that help?
How will that help?
Explain to our viewers.
What it will help is that for very long, the Pashtuns have felt that that border was drawn by the British. It left Pashtuns half on one side and half on the other side.
Yes.
And don't forget, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan refused to be buried in Pakistan.
Yes.
He said, I do not recognize that border, I have to be buried in Jalalabad.
Yes.
So there are very strong Pashtun sentiments, and Pakistan should learn that, there's also the question of the right of Pashtuns.
Okay.
So I think you can turn politically the squeeze on them internally like you've done in Balochistan.
Okay, if India has the stomach for it, and GVL Narasimha Rao can tell us more about it, that is this just a temporary phase because there's so much anger across the country, or does India actually have the stomach to hit Pakistan where it hurts and win a war without committing combatants to it? But I want to go through India's responses. Ambassador Parthasarathy, GVL Narasimha Rao, Janil Qadian and Prerana. India has started responding. Vikas Swarup, spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs, he says, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Pakistan's Prime Minister at UNGA says, Uri attack. He's in complete denial of Uri attack. 19 infiltration attempts across the LOC that was stopped this year. Is this indigenous? Spot on there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Pak PM Nawaz Sharif at UNGA glorifies Hizbul terrorist Burhan Wani at UN's highest forum. It shows Pakistan's continued attachment to terrorism. General Raj Qadhi, and we've discussed this. You can't call a terrorist a freedom fighter or a political leader.
Absolutely not, Gaurav. He was a terrorist. He was a leader of the Hizbul Mujahideen, which is a banned organization headquartered in POK. There was no doubt he was a terrorist and he was rightly killed.
Okay. Prerna, Ambassador Partha Sarthi was discussing the Pashtun issue, the Baluch issue. Is this just a television debate the way Pakistani media is portraying it to be, that 10 people or 15 people assemble, whether in Munich or in Berlin or perhaps even outside the United Nations General Assembly, or does Pakistan have reason to be rattled?
Well, it's maybe a handful of people in Munich and in, Berlin and in New York, but you have to understand these people came from all over. The protests that are happening here, the protesters came from, Ontario, Canada. So the people, this issue is clearly a Baloch, the people from Balochistan have got right now is a platform, a global spotlight that was given to them when Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about the issue, from the ramparts of the Red Fort. So what they have right now is a platform on which they can stand and raise their voice, which hitherto they did not have. Nobody knew about this conflict, no matter how much they talked about. But right now, they're making sure of this global spotlight that they have. They're making sure that they make good use of it. So you never know how this, this whole situation pans out really. But at this point in time, it is a serious issue, and this is something that Pakistan will have to, really think about, especially when it constantly brings up Kashmir when it comes to India.
Okay, I have to slip into a quick break here. Prerna, stay with me. I'll be back in less than a minute. Stay with me. How many people were actually there on ground zero? That story and lots more coming up. Stay with us.
You are watching India.
Welcome back. India has hit back at Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's speech, his rant, his Kashmir rant at the United Nations General Assembly. India said the fact that Pakistan is calling a terrorist, an armed terrorist, Burhan Wani, as a young leader, goes on to show how attached Pakistan is to terrorists and the cause of terrorism. Lots more. But before that, before we move on, let's just for a moment listen in to independent MP Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who said he's going to move a private member's bill so that India can declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror. Let's listen in. Declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror. It's not just two US congressmen. In India, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, independent MP from Bangalore, is moving a private member's bill in Parliament. He joins us on the broadcast, sir. Welcome on the show. That's a great initiative. Tell us, why are you taking it?
I think we have now reached a point in our history as a nation where we have to rewrite the rules of the game about Pakistan. For too many years now, we have been, in a sense, too politically correct about how to handle Pakistan. We have been engaged and we have been engaged and we have been engaged. After Uri, the sum of all of what has happened in the last decade, Mumbai, Pathankot, Uri, and several other terrorist incidents, while we as a nation are going out and asking the world to declare Pakistan a terror state, recognize and declare Pakistan as a terror state, I think it's time we did it as well. Okay. We have to recalibrate our relationship between Pakistan and India as one of a terror state and a country that is calling the terror state as is.
Okay. Now, is this more effective if a private member, you're a lawmaker, you're well within your rights to do it, sir, and it's an outstanding step, but should you be doing it or should government of India be doing it?
So I will do what powers, I will use the powers that I have as MP, which is use a private member's bill. But I have also written this morning to the Prime Minister and urged him and his government to take the same step to declare Pakistan a terror state. And all of the steps that implies, including cancelling and repealing the MFN status that this country has given Pakistan in 1996, which Pakistan did not reciprocate till date. We must repeal the MFN status. We must use the economic tools that we have, including an embargo on travel between the two nations.
Okay.
We must cancel visas and passports. We must use the power that we have economically whilst we explore the options militarily and diplomatically.
GVL Narasimha Rao, is the government willing to take at least some of these hard steps? For example, let's begin with step 1, most favored nation status to Pakistan. Is the Narendra Modi government willing to withdraw it?
No, Gaurav, I made it clear to you earlier, I'm not in a position to give any specific kind of actions that will follow in the coming weeks. I think one will have to wait and see. A whole range of measures are under consideration, but certainly that's not a matter for neither am privy to those details, nor is it a matter for public discussion and debate as of yet. But certainly the government is considering entire full gamut of measures available to ensure that Pakistan behaves and Pakistan delivers on the promises that it has made, and it will be made to pay. So certainly, but what exactly will that constitute? I think I'm not in a position to really speculate. And I don't think even advisable to do so as of now.
Okay, but General, if you were to war game it, because it has to be a comprehensive national response. The army is one part of it. Military response is one part of it. But if it has to be a comprehensive national response, withdrawing MFN status or declaring Pakistan a state sponsor of terror, will that help? Will that help the larger cause of stopping Pakistan terror?
In one way, I think Mr. Chandrasekhar is absolutely right that if we are expecting the world to declare Pakistan a terror state, then we must start within ourselves. India must be the initiator of it. I don't really know what is the implication of a country being declared a terror state. Will it also impose some sanctions? If it does, then it is meaningful. Otherwise, just a bit of a psychological effect, there is a terror state. But yes, if other countries stop doing trade with them, if there is restriction of international flights, some kind of curtailing of Pakistani visas who want to go abroad, then it is more meaningful. Your second part of the question you asked, Narasimha Rao, I think when you have already decided that we are not going to speak to Pakistan, and we have now accepted that Pakistan has no interest in shaking hands with us and talking to us on a subject of peace, then all these methods, combination, diplomacy we are already doing, political, economic, psychological, social and military must be adopted, and I presume the government would be examining all these options.
In a while from now, we are just getting a reaction from MJ Akbar, Minister of State for External Affairs. I quickly want to cut across to the United States of America. Let's listen into Syed Akbaruddin.
Time out from a busy schedule to come here. Our idea today is to just respond for your convenience to some of those, to the statements that we've heard in the UN General Assembly right now. Of course, a formal right of reply, as is usual, will be made at the end of the day's proceedings. Given your timelines and your convenience, I do understand that you will require a much more swift response. So we've requested the Minister of State, MJ Akbar, who is here, to provide a few thoughts which come to mind right away based on that statement. However, at the end of the day, we will give you a formal response that is being provided to the United Nations in the General Assembly Hall. With those introductory comments, I'll ask the Minister of State to make his brief remarks.
Pakistan at the moment seems to be run by a war machine rather than a government. Pakistan wants dialogue while holding a gun in its hand, a terrorist gun in its hand. Talks and guns don't go together. Our position on a dialogue has been consistent We have always been ready for a dialogue, but we will not succumb to the blackmail tactics of a government in Islamabad that seems eager to use terrorism and terrorism as policy. We heard the glorification of a terrorist. Burhan Wani is a self-declared commander of the Hizbul Mujahideen. This organization is widely acknowledged as a terrorist group, internationally acknowledged as a terrorist group. It was shocking that a leader of a nation can glorify a self-declared, a self-advertised terrorist at such a forum. This is self-incrimination by the Pakistan Prime Minister. We have just heard a speech full of threat, bluster, and I'm afraid what can only be described as rising immaturity and complete disregard of facts. The only occupation in Jammu and Kashmir which is a part of India is the occupation of a part of Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistan's occupation army. The world also knows that Pakistan has indulged in ethnic cleansing within its own people. Pakistan's consistent use of war and terrorism has been, alas, at the cost of development of the people of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan are paying the price of a malevolent policy.
Yeah, just two questions because we have to leave.
Abhishek from Times Now. Sir, Nawaz Sharif in his speech also said that Pakistan is ready to go the extra mile, has always gone the extra mile. Which extra mile you think the Pakistani Prime Minister was talking about? For peace.
We haven't seen the first mile. Where is the question of the extra mile?
Yes, last question. Okay.
The Indian panorama. So the policy of India towards Pakistan has been rather unclear for the last couple of years. Do you think India is now resolved to take a firm stance against Pakistan, notwithstanding whatever Pakistan has been doing and saying all over?
Our Prime Minister's attitude and policy to Pakistan has been consistent from day one. From day one. In the very first invitation that was extended to the SAARC leaders, it was made clear that India was always ready for dialogue with anyone, but not if there was any use of terrorism. You will recall even in the first weeks, the dialogue process was disrupted because India's stand has been unfavoring and changing. You can see in our relationship with other countries which have, where the dialogue process has taken amity and friendship far, very far. It has.
Yeah, please. Yes. No.
Sir, the Pakistani Prime Minister is going to submit a supposed dossier to the United Nations Secretary General, and Nawaz Sharif has made possibly the most massive lobbying effort trying to convert the global community to mediate on Kashmir dispute. Can you talk from India's stance how these countries, the world superpowers, the P5 have reacted to us and what they are saying on India's position?
Well, it's a very simple response. I mean, I hope you have heard all the other speeches. Nobody else has referred to this.
Yes, last question, yes.
Hi sir, this is Ashok from ANI. Sir, your quote, we need your comment on Balochistan because the Balochistan people are protesting in front of UN headquarters. Any comment on it?
Well, the Balochistan people have reasons for protest against a policy of serious violence against the people, which has a very long history. It is a violence that has included the use of air force, the use of massive armed forces against them. But the best, I think you will have to go and talk to them to find out the full truth.
Thank you very much. With that we end it. Thank you.
So that was Minister of State for External Affairs MJ Akbar hitting back at Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. And look at the aspects that MJ Akbar raised. Burhan Wani, a terrorist, a self-declared terrorist of a terrorist organization like Hizbul Mujahideen. And it's not just India, it's the United States, it's the United Nations, it's the European Union. Hizbul Mujahideen is a terrorist organization for the world, and Prime Minister of Pakistan calls a Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist a young leader. MJ Akbar hit out at Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. He said Pakistan is run by a war machine rather than by a government. Burhan Wani was a self-declared commander of the Hizbul Mujahideen, and this was acknowledged. The fact that he was acknowledged internationally by a leader of a country goes on to show that how can they glorify terrorism. Heard of speech which was full of threat, full of bluster and complete disregard of facts. Only occupation of Jammu and Kashmir, as MJ Akbar said, was Pakistan occupied Kashmir. And MJ Akbar is just giving the first reaction. Minister of State for External Affairs. India's counter charge will be led by Sushma Swaraj, External Affairs Minister, on the 26th of September. Now, all of her speech is not just a response to Pakistan. That will form one part of it. The big part of her speech is India's worldview, what India expects the United Nations to do to benefit the world. And I want to bring in GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP and General Raj Qadian. General, to you first, what do you make of MJ Akbar's response?
I think he has touched upon the crunch points. 3-4 of them, you also summed them up. Firstly, for a leader of a country to glorify a known terrorist and also a known murderer,
yes,
as a young leader, I think is demeaning himself. Number two, he clarified that India is always willing to talk, but not under the shadow of the gun. India has always extended her hand. In fact, the present Prime Minister, ever since he came to power, right from first day, as MJ Akbar also pointed out, till the Uri attack, we were willing to talk to them, despite all their perfidies. But I think Uri has been a breaking point. The patience is lost now. And third thing he mentioned about Pakistani use of air power against their own countrymen who are fighting for freedom. So I don't think Nawaz Sharif has any moral right to give a lecture to India when in his own backyard he is doing exactly what he is accusing India of.
And worse,
thing,
and
course,
much worse.
If anything, we need to talk on...
Yes, yes. GVL Narasimha Rao, you know, the
what
point...
I was saying was that other...
You know, give me a minute, General. GVL Narasimha Rao, after 26/11, everyone said this is the last, straw that broke the camel's back. After this, relationship with Pakistan will never be the same again. And yet we saw engagement with Pakistan without Pakistan addressing our core issues. Now, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi took over, just soon after he took over, there was an attack at the Indian consulate in Herat. Then there was an attack at Gurdaspur, then at Udhampur, then at Pathankot, then at Uri. Now, is this the final straw that broke the camel's back? Or will we once again, the moment the outrage is over, we'll see the relationship go back to engaging with Pakistan and hoping for a brighter future because you can't change your neighbors, so you must engage with them?
No, Gaurav, I think even much before Uri happened, I think our policy has already been unveiled, where the pressure was already building up on Pakistan. In a sense, Uri itself is an attempt by a frustrated Pakistan, an act which was carried out in desperation, and which has actually isolated Pakistan much more. The extent of isolation has actually grown because of Pakistan's acts of omission and commission. And Uri has only convinced even countries which have possibly not personally, not accused Pakistan by name. I think Pakistan's means now have actually become their own, means have actually started targeting them, means have ensured that they could not achieve the ends they wanted to really achieve. What happened to 22 MPs that Nawaz Sharif sent to all the global capitals 2 months ago?
Yes.
What has happened to their attempts to go to UN and raise Kashmir as an issue? Not a single country has raised Kashmir issue in the last few days.
Yes.
At the UN Assembly, General Assembly. Because Pakistan has lost all credibility, and today by glorifying a terrorist, I think Pakistan has only again advertised to the whole world that they are backing terrorists of the banned organizations internationally. So I think this one-liner from MJ actually is actually it sums it up all. Actually, Nawaz Sharif has self-incriminated himself and his country as a terror-sponsoring organization.
Yes.
by talking about Burhan Wani and saying that we stand for the fight by people like Burhan Wani. So he's actually siding with terrorists.
Which he appears to be doing. MJ Akbar hit back and hard. Now, we will listen to MJ Akbar. MJ Akbar hitting back measure for measure. Nawaz Sharif raised several points. One of the key points he raised was Burhan Wani, a Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist. He called him a young Kashmir leader, a young leader in Kashmir. He talked about human rights violations, alleged human rights violations in Kashmir. MJ Akbar hit back. I want to listen into what MJ Akbar said before I bring our guests in for more on this. Let's quickly listen into MJ Akbar.
Yeah, just two questions because we have to leave.
Abhishek from Times Now. Sir, Nawaz Sharif in his speech also said that Pakistan is ready to go the extra mile, has always gone the extra mile. Which extra mile you think the Pakistani Prime Minister was talking about? For peace.
We haven't seen the first mile. Where is the question of the extra mile?
Yes, last question. Okay.
The Indian panorama. So the policy of India towards Pakistan has been rather unclear for the last couple of years. Do you think India is now resolved to take a firm stance against Pakistan, notwithstanding whatever Pakistan has been doing and saying all over?
Our Prime Minister's attitude and policy to Pakistan has been consistent from day one. From day one. In the very first invitation that was extended to the SAARC leaders, it was made clear that India was always ready for dialogue with anyone, but not if there was any use of terrorism. You will recall even in the first weeks, the dialogue process was disrupted because India's stand has been unfavoring and changing. You can see in our relationship with other countries which have, where the dialogue process has taken amity and friendship far, very far. It has.
Are we ready for
Yeah, please. Yes. No.
So the Pakistani Prime Minister is going to submit a supposed dossier to the United Nations Secretary General, and Nawaz Sharif has made possibly the most massive lobbying effort trying to convert the global community to mediate on Kashmir dispute. Can you talk from India's stance how these countries, the world superpowers, the P5 have reacted to us and what they are saying on India's position?
Well, it's a very simple response. I mean, I hope you have heard all the other speeches. Nobody else has referred to this.
Yes, last question, yes.
Hi sir, this is Ashok from ANI. Sir, your quote, we need your comment on Balochistan because the Balochistan people are protesting in front of UN headquarters. Can comment on it?
Well, the Balochistan people have reasons for protest against a policy of serious violence against the people, which has a very long history. It is a violence that has included the use of air force, the use of massive armed forces against them. But the best, I think you will have to go and talk to them to find out the full truth.
Thank you very much. With that we end. Thank you.
General Qadian, closing comments from you when we talk about Pakistan's Prime Minister not just raise the issue of Burhan Wani, that may be, one part of the story, but the fact that he wants the UN to send an independent fact-finding body into Jammu and Kashmir, the fact that he wants to present a dossier to the UN Secretary General, what is his bigger game plan? What's he driving at?
Gaurav, firstly, I think Nawaz Sharif has done India a great favor by bringing in the name of Burhan Wani. It will make India's task much easier to tell the world, to convince the world that Pakistan loves terrorism. This example is good enough. Number two, you said that bringing in a fact-finding mission. Ban Ki-moon some weeks ago had made a statement when he was asked a question about the situation in Kashmir. He said the United Nations Charter is only to monitor the ceasefire line and not to interfere with what is happening inside. I think that answer is good enough. That is the same answer Nawaz Sharif will get now. The United Nations has no role to play. When we accepted this United Nations resolution in 48, there were two preconditions. Number one, Pakistan must move out all its security forces. Number two, Pakistan must move out all the non-Kashmiris. These two preconditions were not met by Pakistan.
Yes.
So now to harp on why the plebiscite is taking place when they changed the entire demography of P&K, it has no relevance anymore.
Okay.
And the UN recognizes, as I mentioned, the Secretary General clarified that we have nothing to do inside. We are only worried about the ceasefire line.
Yeah. Okay. So how should India be responding to Pakistan's repeated attempts? One, we need to strengthen ourselves. What happened at Uri is unpardonable. I mean, you're a commander. You've been a commander on ground yourself, General. What happened in Uri? Militarily unpardonable. That terrorists could cause the kind of destruction they did. But how should the Indian Army respond to that?
Yes, the destruction, of course, part of it because the diesel caught fire. There may have been some security lapses. The army will investigate and apply the right correctives. But then I will raise this point that just because we were lax, it does not give the Pakistanis a license to attack. It is like a thief trying to plead innocence because the neighbor's house where he targeted was unlocked. That is no logic. Whether we keep ourselves locked or unlocked, it is nothing to do with Pakistan getting a liberty to attack. Yes, it was a serious attack. We lost 19 men. The fires on their funerals are still hot. The ashes are hot. The entire country is looking for punishment to Pakistan, not so much to the terrorists, because terrorists are only the actors.
Yes.
And let me remind you, Gaurav, that public pressure is a very great factor. Let's go back to 1999 when Flight 814 was hijacked to Kandahar.
No, but how should the army respond, General? How should the army respond? Because the government has said it is for the army to respond at a place and time of their choosing. It happened to the army should avenge it, the army knows how to do it. whatever you can tell our people safely, how should the army respond?
I have said army should hit Pakistan, don't go for terrorist attacks. Army should prefer to hit them from remaining this side of the LOC. We have the means, we have the method. Don't forget, we are a 14 lakhs army. We are spending 250,000 crore rupees of the national budget. We owe it to the country to come up to the country's expectation and hit them we must. And the earlier we do, the better to assuage the public anger. Now the government has given the go-ahead. I am sure the army is very actively examining the options. They may be waiting for this UN General Assembly to be over or whatever. The government will finally give them the go-ahead also, but they have already given the liberty. And army must do its part now.
And we will continue to track developments on that story. General Raj Qadian, former Deputy Chief of the Army Staff, many thanks for joining me here on this big India Today discussion on Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's Kashmir rant, a complete disaster for Pakistan, if I may. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
You are watching.